What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
All right. What is it? Friday night? That means Radio Baloney Live. Friday night, Radio Baloney Live. I'm your host, Richie Baloney. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody had a great week. Good to see you guys again. Spambot, Izzy, good to see you guys in the chat already. All right. So we got lots going on. Lots and lots and lots and lots going on tonight. It could be a long one. We'll have to see how it goes. All right. So let's go through the menu first off and see everything we're going to talk about. So we're going to start out with some kind of not politics stuff tonight, which is kind of fun. Now that all the elections are over, we can, focus on some other stuff, not just politics. How about some conspiracy theories that aren't actually even really conspiracy theories? Let's see. So, yeah, we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into these underground bunkers, these DUMBs, these deep underground military bases. We're going to take a peek into these, and I've got quite a bit of stuff here that I've all researched on this, and it's going to be fun. All right, what else have we got? We're going to talk about the Alberta independence movement. So can Alberta become its own thing, and then would it end up becoming the 51st state? I don't know. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and find out. Maybe. We got some Canadian media bias. I mean, I think the problem for Canada is that the legacy media here is actually more powerful than it is in the States, and there's no counterpoint to the leftist media propaganda in Canada. Not on the TV. We've got some newspapers, but you know where newspapers are going, right? Down, which is a shame. But the legacy media in Canada is actually more powerful than I thought it was before the election. That's, with hindsight, I'm seeing that now. We see ridiculous things like this. Mark Carney held a masterclass in his meeting with Trump. That's a ridiculous statement, but that's the Canadian media. That's what we're dealing with here. It's just all CNN all the time, essentially. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to talk about Mark Carney a little bit. Trump loves Mark Carney. He just loves him. Let's see. We've got some woke Canada stuff here, which is frustrating and it's infuriating. Let's see. More Canada stuff. Yeah, it's not looking good. Let's see. 60% chance of Canada facing soaring mortgage rates soon. Job cuts looming. Default rate. This isn't all. This is just a continuation of the last 10 years. And it's going to go into overdrive with Carney. We're going to hear from this detransitioner. And these are just such tragic stories. And it's so insane that adults, health professionals are allowed to do these experiments on children who have no idea what the heck they're getting themselves in for. We'll take a look at that. It's sad. We're going to take a look at the Trump tariffs. In short, basically, Trump's just getting everything that he wanted. So we'll take a look at that. Some woke mind virus stuff. I don't know. So you used to have to do something to have a statue. Like, it used to have to be symbolic. Maybe, like the Greeks or Romans, they, did statues of mythological figures, and, when great people would have statues, Lincoln, Jefferson, that sort of, Winston Churchill. Now you just got to be fat and not white, apparently. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We've got a few memes, I think, in here. We got a few new ones. I got a few new memes in there. We'll take a look at those. Then we got the last tab of the evening, which is just a big mix of just stuff. We got that Fox, that lady on Fox who just passed out. I'm going to guess that she got her boosters. She definitely got them. This guy's hilarious. He just roasts people over their social media. And this guy's funny. We've seen him a few times. We'll take a look at him again. He roasts woke people for the things they have said on social media. And he pulls it out and says, well, why did you say this? And he's very funny. Let's see. Lots of just random stuff in the last bookmark of the evening. We've got like flamethrower drones that can get rid of your wasp problem, which looks awesome. Let's see. And some of the stuff we saw last week. There's that lady who had the crack smoking raccoon in her car. Sorry, meth smoking. Meth. All right. Let's get back to here. And this is impressive, I have to say. I'm not asking her to make me a sandwich. No way. She's got to crack me across the head with that thing. What's going on? Let's take a look at the chat. Who got the first like? Spambot got the first like. Good for you. So that's double good karma. Everybody knows you get double good karma for the first like of the show. So good work there. Double good karma. Now, anybody else watching can still get good karma. You just got to like the stream or subscribe to the channel. You just don't get the double good karma that the early birds get. Let's see. Izzy, how you doing? Like number 2, still pretty good. You know what? Like number 2, you're getting 1 + 1/4 good karma because I just feel generous. All right. Yeah, good evening, Spambot. Let's see. Rosie, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. Izzy says, we're starting to worry. Rumble seems to be having issues tonight. I know, I saw that. Seemed to be working, so, I mean, maybe we won't get that many people in tonight if there's kind of continuing problems, maybe regional problems. I don't know. But we'll go for a while. Let's see. Yeah, Spambot says Rumble was under heavy DDoS, denial of service attacks for about 4 hours. It might start back up again. I mean, who knows? The whole thing could just crash. But yeah, that happens to them fairly frequently because they're a free speech platform, and there are people that hate that don't like free speech. Looks like it's still going on. Yeah, so I mean, it may not be that many people find us tonight because especially regionally, there could be problems, but I guess we'll just have to see. Spambot says, but not 51st state. You talking about Alberta? You never know. You never know. Once things start falling apart, all kinds of stuff can happen. Dramus says, how you doing, Dramus? Like 3 gives positive energy. Positive energy. What kind of positive energy could you be talking about? I mean, we all like energy. You're talking about like coffee energy? You're talking about like nicotine energy? You're talking about like energy just from like a good sleep? What kind of energy are you talking about? Not that kind. Damn it. Wrong one. There we go.
They, them, energy. They, them, energy. They, them, energy. They, them, energy.
And Teapot. Just love it. Just love it. Apparently she's like a folk singer or something too, so she's got that going for her as well as the they, them energy. Let's see. I pressed the button that I made especially for when Carney lost the election, which didn't happen. And it made me sad having to. I should just take that off the soundboard because there's just no point in having that, obviously, because he won. Maybe I'll save it for the next election. How about that? Rosie says, no energy. What can you do? What can you do? All right. So there we've gotten through the first bit of the chat. Shall we get to some stuff that the kind of stuff we haven't been dealing with lately? But it's time to get back to it again, mixed in with our politics stuff. Of course, it's always going to be mostly politics, but this stuff is fun too. I guess it's kind of politics in a way. So, conspiracy theories with another W from Ross Musier. Well, I find this kind of fascinating. Like, there's 2 levels to this. So here from a story from the New York Post, and I've actually got this article. We'll get to it in a minute. But Bush official claims U.S. built secret $21 trillion underground city for rich and powerful to live if near extinction event happens. Now, that's not quite right because it was 21 trillion for a bunch of different underground cities. And there's actually a lot of talk about this. They're called DUMBs. They're called deep underground military bases, covert military installations that are set either inside of a mountain or deep underground. Base 211 is the name of an alleged subterranean German UFO base built below Antarctic ice. Now, I'm not sure Germany would actually have the money to do that, but especially not now. I mean, I guess maybe in the past. I mean, I don't know. It's expensive. There is this. Hold on. Where is it? Base is abandoned, but the U.S. Army left some waste behind. NASA found a secret military base buried 100 feet deep in Greenland's ice shelf. The base is abandoned, but the U.S. Army left some waste behind. So this has been long abandoned for decades, but they did build a base under the ice. It does exist. It's a Cold War relic. But it's there, and this was for nuclear weapons. So maybe Antarctica, but I don't think Germany would be the one doing it. It would be the U.S. or maybe China. This is what we're talking about here. So these underground cities, like this is a model of one, right? So to my mind, when there are so many things that can go wrong, because the universe is a very cold and different place, and very dangerous place, and so is the world, and so is just nature. Yeah, I mean, you'd expect there would be lots of these, and of course, we know that there are already. You got Cheyenne Mountain Complex, you got Raven Rock Mountain Complex, you've got Camp Century, Cold War era U.S. military base discovered beneath the ice in Greenland. We just saw that. There's a Yugoslav one here. You got Power Cavern and Control Building, a Canadian air defense sector complex, a subterranean anti-nuclear bunker located near North Bay, Ontario. There's lots of problems that can occur for the modern man. And really, I mean, we knew bunkers were happening ever since, nuclear weapons were first developed. And in fact, even before then. So we know that these underground complexes exist. How big they are exactly, we don't know. But we know they exist. Does this exist? I don't know. Let's see. But there's tons of stuff that we've seen. Lots of videos about this stuff. Like, let's check out this one. Now, I don't know how much of that would be part of an underground city or how much. I mean, you've got stuff here just looks like subway, like for a subway, for instance. Who knows? We know that stuff does get built underground. The ground gets gets dug out. They put things in it. But there's tons of stuff here. Here you've got Elon Musk's Boring Company. So if you're going to connect to these things, for transportation, I mean, that would be very handy. I mean, already, obviously, they know how to bore holes in the ground, but, just Elon Musk is better at everything. So there's maybe something. Maybe he knows something. Maybe he's onto something, right? But one thing I find interesting is that when you see things that are real, like there really are like underground cities, like I'm not going to say city, but there's underground complexes, there's huge bunkers. We know they actually exist. And it would make sense to have them. And, just in case the worst happens. I asked AI about DUMBs. It says DUMBs or deep underground military bases refers to a conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory, huh? Because we know that, like, there is something like that exists. But conspiracy theory centered on these secret military facilities located deep underground. These bases are often depicted in conspiracy theories as holding trafficked children or housing other clandestine activities. So I've never heard that. Is that a well known conspiracy theory? Who thinks that? Like, why do you need to have that? It seems like there may be psyops that are created around things that, like, governments don't want you talking about. Like, if you've got a 100 of these things around the country and they're huge, like, if the shit does hit the fan, if the grid goes down, say, you don't want everybody knowing about them and knowing where they are and milling about and trying to break in, or just, starving to death outside the front door. So you'd probably want to keep it kind of quiet. It's like with COVID, with the vaccine. So there was this conspiracy theory out there about there was microchips in the jab. And I heard that and I thought, well, nobody really believes that, do they? Nobody really believes there's actually microchips in the jab, do they? I mean, that doesn't really it doesn't make any sense on any level. So where did that come from? Is it that somebody just comes up with something like that, and then you have PSYOP teams that are looking for things to discredit any critic? So anybody who would say anything, raise any reasonable concern about, say, the jab, being like, well, what about like the long-term testing? Like, we used to think that was important, and then all of a sudden it's totally crazy to expect long-term testing. So is there like a PSYOP team that goes out and looks for like ridiculous things and then just tries to paint anybody with any reasonable concern as a conspiracy theorist and tie them to that sort of thing, like microchips and vaccines? And this is when I read this, it made me think of that. Often depicted in conspiracy theories, these bases are often depicted in conspiracy theories as holding trafficked children or housing other clandestine activity. So I've never heard that, and it seems quite ridiculous. Like, I don't think Epstein is in one of them running his thing. I don't think that, there's a pizza parlor down there, right? It seems... But we know that obviously there's facilities. So this feels like the same, like they're trying to attach something that's going to make most people hear it and go, well, that just sounds crazy. So anybody talking about this just sounds crazy. And again, you'd have a very good reason to not want people to think these things are everywhere if the shit did hit the fan. Right, so it just makes me immediately suspicious when I see something like AI overview. I've never heard this conspiracy theory. Like, how popular is this conspiracy theory? That, like, I guess like Epstein is down there, right? Maybe Diddy's been shipped down there as well. I don't know. But it makes me think that just people, there are powerful people that don't want you talking about it. And that's why they attach these kind of ridiculous things to it. Makes me immediately suspicious. And how many of these conspiracy theories are just psyops to keep people from talking about reality and just things that are obvious? Because conspiracies do exist. There's real conspiracies. That's why we have a word for them, right? But if you attach something that's really unlikely or ridiculous or just obviously not true, you can use that to discredit everybody else. The people that are just asking reasonable questions or just discussing actual demonstrable reality. Because we know the bases exist. We know these facilities exist. So again, essentially just an attempt to poison the well of public discourse. around something that you would just rather not have people talking about. Let me see what you guys are having to say about that. Hold on. Rosie says, tunnels under Getty Museum are real. Are they saying tunnels are connected to dumb, so deep underground military bunkers? Well, yeah, there is. It would make sense if you could to have an underground tunnel connecting these different facilities. That would obviously make a lot of sense logistically. Um, you'd want that. So again, I mean, Elon Musk has the Boring Company. Maybe you could. Maybe we could ask him at some point. And all right, so anyway, I see this the conspiracy theory that I've never heard of. Doesn't seem like it could be very popular, but it's the first thing that comes up here with the AI overview. It just makes me think that there are people that don't want you talking about these facilities, don't want you talking about them, knowing about them, just in case they're ever actually needed, and you're not welcome. So yeah, under here it says, dumbs are a key element in the deep state conspiracy theory. Well, we know there's a deep state. We know there's like a deep state is just permanent bureaucracy. Right. And then you have, extra national actors like the World Economic Forum, the UN. I mean, again, there's no real conspiracy there. It's just, there's nothing that would be totally unbelievable as a with say permanent bureaucracy conspiring with each other, or international actors conspiring with each other. That just seems totally realistic, and obviously that's what people do. But yeah, when I see this, I just think they don't want me talking about this. They want me to feel silly talking about it, but it's just obviously real. It's not even shocking, right? It's not even shocking. I mean, we know some of them already exist, and it's a lot more than these. Has to be. I mean, look, billionaire survivalist bunkers go absolutely bonkers with fiery boats and water cannons. So, all of the, like Zuckerberg and all of them, they're all building these bunkers themselves. And why? Do they know something? Well, they know that shit can hit the fan. If any of them ever picked up a history book or know anything about, genetically modified viruses, for instance, or that nuclear weapons exist, or maybe. Well, hold on a second before we get to that. Because I just want to say this. Bunkers make sense. Right? They just make sense. I would build one if I could. If I had enough money to build a bunker, I would be building one right now. I'd build as many as I could, as a matter of fact. There's been many extinction events in Earth's history. Many. You've got asteroids. Don't let Hollywood fool you. If there's like a 20-kilometer asteroid heading towards Earth, there is nothing we can do about it. Right? You have catastrophic epidemics, not even like genetically modified, not even ones made in a lab. I mean, you just like plague, Black Death. Then, of course, you have the ones that are actually made, the designer ones that are made in a lab. And those ones are totally terrifying. So asteroids strike man-made pathogens, nuclear war, of course, electromagnetic pulse attack, an EMP attack, grid goes down. It's probably about 2 weeks before people start eating each other. Weakening of the Earth's magnetic field. And that could lead to a bunch of stuff, including grid collapse. So I've got something on that. Smithsonian Magazine. Could doomsday come from a reversal of the magnetic poles? So, after studying the reversal of the Earth's magnetic pole, known to have occurred 42,000 years ago, a science team led by Alan Cooper from the South Australian Museum in Adelaide, Australia, concludes that the event had significant environmental repercussions, especially at lower and mid latitudes. That period, known as the Lachamps excursion, had anomalously had anomal had anomalously high radiocarbon concentrations in the atmosphere, which were linked to a higher influx of radiation. When the reversal occurred within a span of about 1,000 years, Earth's magnetic field weakened drastically, and the magnetic north and south poles flipped, temporarily leaving surface-dwelling organisms largely unprotected from the high influxes of both ionic and ultraviolet radiation. So it might be good to live underground for a while, or I guess the rest of your life. Previous studies had not found much of an environmental impact from the flip, but that conclusion was based primarily on ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica, which biased it toward higher latitudes. Cooper and his colleagues took more representative samples from all over the world, including from tree rings in New Zealand. They conclude that the magnetic reversal was in fact related to the extinction of a large fraction of large animals at the time, as well as the disappearance of the Neanderthals and even the appearance of cave art. So, and we know that that is actually happening right now, right? The magnetic reversal is in progress right now. So, do we need to worry? Yes and no. And this article is also from 2021. So that's before, all this stuff started being written about it recently. All right, hold on. So do we need to worry? Yes and no. Yes, because our energy supply is increasingly fragile. See the recent effects of icy weather on Texas's power grid, and much of our communication is based on satellites. If those are knocked out by solar storms, the effect on society could be substantial. No GPS, no social media, electrical power outages. Do I need to go on? Again, the grid goes down. It's not getting fixed for like minimum a year, and people will be eating each other before the end of that. Do we need to worry? No, because a reversal may not necessarily have a big environmental impact after all. There have been other periods of magnetic weakenings and reversals. The last one was 34,000 years ago, with apparently little effect, judging from the fossil record. So, it might not kill you. So you might not die. You might not be eaten by cannibals. Maybe. Like, not for sure. You're not, like, for sure going to get eaten by cannibals in front of your family. But maybe. Yes and no. Maybe. Yeah, there's a lot that can go wrong. And it just makes sense they'd be building these bunkers when you consider all of the threats, right? All the threats we've gone through, like just natural pathogens, man-made pathogens, asteroid threats. I mean, there's volcanic activity. Yellowstone goes up. I mean, the Earth is screwed for a while. It wouldn't wipe everybody off the face of the Earth, but a lot of people are going to starve to death. Weakening of the Earth's magnetic field is the one that's kind of in the news right now. A lot of people are talking about it. It does appear that it may well. I mean, we got to be fair. You may not get eaten by cannibals when it happens, and it does happen over a long period of time too, right? So, but you might also be eaten by cannibals, or not be able to go outside because of the radiation. And the power grid might go. So maybe, probably, who we kidding? Probably. That's why they're building the bunkers. So here's the article from the beginning. Bush official claims U.S. built secret $21 trillion underground city for rich and powerful to live if, Quote, near extinction event happens. Near extinction event happens. Well, they can happen is the thing. Universe is a very cold, indifferent, and fatal place. There could be a supernova that happens too close to the Earth, and that could literally just scour any life off the surface of the planet if we're too close to that. I mean, there's a lot of really bad things that can happen. A lot of reasons you might want to go underground. Not that it'd be a great life, but you'd be alive, probably. The federal government has secretly spent trillions building an elaborate network of subterranean cities where the rich and powerful can shelter during a near-extinction event, a former Bush White House official sensationally claimed. About 170 such bunkers have been built across the country since 1998, including some resting between the oceans off the coast. A 74-year-old Catherine Austin Fitz told Tucker Carlson during a recent appearance on his podcast. It's preparation for catastrophe, she said. Let's go, and I think I've actually got that. Let's take a look at what she says. Here she is. All right, let's take a peek.
The underground base and city infrastructure and transportation system that's been built. And
I'm sorry?
Yes. So we have built an extraordinary number of underground bases and supposedly transportation systems. Some of these are documented as part of the national security infrastructure. I think there are many more.
In the United States?
In the United States, on all over the world. From 2021 to 2023, I took one of the smartest subscribers in the Slayer Report network, and he and I spent 2 years collecting all the data and all the allegations on underground bases. We systematically went through and tried to estimate our guess, this is totally a guess, of how many underground bases, both underground in the United States, but also underground under the ocean around the United States. And our estimate was 170 with the transportation network connecting them.
And what would be the purpose?
If you thought you were going to get a near extinction event,
see, that's the real thing, right? Like, the fact these things exist, I mean, there's lots of reasons for them to exist. In fact, if they didn't, it would actually be pretty irresponsible, frankly. Certainly considering, perhaps the extinction of the species. So I would expect, there's more than the ones we know about. We already know they exist, that some exist, but I would expect there's many more. And I would also expect that the people that they're intended for are probably not going to want to spread word around. So, because again, that can only cause problems when you have millions of desperate people. So the question really does come down to, what are they for? Do they know something's coming? Do they highly suspect something's coming? Or is it just they think, well, just in case. We were never going to need it, but just in case. Fitz, who served as Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under President George H.W. Bush from 1989 to 1990, claimed $21 trillion in taxpayer dollars were funneled into the project between 1998 and 2015. I don't find any of this far-fetched in the slightest bit. In fact, I would expect it. In fact, I would say that it would be irresponsible not to. She provided no evidence for her claims, but said a 2017 report from Michigan State University economist Mark Skidmore indicated that much unauthorized spending had been uncovered across the Departments of Defense and Housing and Urban Development during that time. So Department of Defense and Department of Housing and Urban Development. Very interesting. After 2 years of combing through records related to already documented underground military bases, Fitz says she looked into allegations of a wider bunker network. Comparing her research against the missing cache, Fitz said she was able to make a guess about how many facilities there really are. She claimed the 170 only applied to bases on U.S. soil and around its coastline, alleging that more exists across the world. And the bases are connected by an elaborate transportation system, she added, while claiming they are powered by a secret energy system known only to the military. So I know that they've been digging holes, big tunnels underground for a long time, but it's more fun. But it's more fun if Elon Musk is doing it with his boring company. It just makes it more fun. All right. Those alleged bases are used not just as doomsday bunkers for the elites, Fitz claimed, but also as places for the government to operate secret operations like a secret space program. Well, maybe that makes it more interesting. Why not? Now, let's go here. Michigan State University. MSU scholars find, and this is from the Michigan State University.edu. This is their website. MSU scholars find 21 trillion in unauthorized government spending. Now, if I was told that just 21 trillion was just pilfered by scam artists, I wouldn't be terribly surprised by that. I mean, I've heard about how like all of these social security records are hidden or like down in a mine shaft, like literally like in Indiana Jones, just like boxes of files, like bizarre. But in any case, MSU scholars find 21 trillion in unauthorized government spending. Defense Department to conduct first ever audit. Earlier this year, a Michigan State University economist working with graduate students and a former government official found 21 trillion in unauthorized spending in the Departments of Defense and Housing and Urban Development for the years 1998 to 2015. Okay, we knew that. The work of Mark Skidmore and his team. That's an unfortunate name. I wonder if the other kids called him Mark Skidmark. Skidmark. I don't know. That's terrible, though. I would never do that. In any case, the work of Mark Skidmark and his team, which included digging into government websites and repeated queries to U.S. agencies that went unanswered, coincided with the Office of Inspector General at one point disabling the links to all key documents showing the unsupported spending. Luckily, the researchers had downloaded and stored the documents. So, again, here's people being sneaky and trying to hide things. I don't see the conspiracy here so much as, I mean, I guess you could, I guess obviously if you're taking money, and they don't have like rock solid proof of this, right? This is just what they think was happening. I guess you have the connection between those two government departments, Department of Defense and Housing and Urban Development. You have a lot of missing money. They were looking through documents and projects from Housing and Urban Development, and that's how they came to this. I would expect that the government is building giant bunkers everywhere, because you would want to save civilization in the event of something catastrophic happening, right? I mean, you might have to hunker down for 100 years. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's controversial, the idea that the government is building bunkers so they can stay alive, and that billionaires are building bunkers so that they can stay alive. The most kind of interesting thing to me really is about the psyop of like attaching the kind of like ridiculous conspiracy theories to things that are just real. Again, I'd say like the microchips in the jab, for instance. I mean, nobody thought that was real. Does anybody really think that like they're building these things so like Epstein can go down there and do stuff? No. I mean, I think what people would think is what I think, which is, yeah, the world's a dangerous place. There have been extinction level events, many of them in the past. And if you've got the ability and the economy and the money to do it, obviously you're going to build bunker. I would be building a bunker right now if I could. If I had the money, I'd be designing a beautiful, the best bunker in Canada, beautiful bunker. I'd be developing it right now. Anybody would. Just makes sense, especially now when just so much can go wrong. Like, we can kill ourselves so easily. Not to mention, just like a big enough solar flare could knock out the power grid. Forget about, the magnetic field and all. Just a big enough solar flare could knock out, like a Carrington event could knock out the power grid. And then, about 2 weeks, your neighbor's trying to eat you. So, did I have anything else in here? Let's see. Now, just to go in to check on this a little bit. So, I thought I'd ask Grok to take a look into these claims a little bit. And what are they saying here? So, obviously, the government is going to admit nothing, right? Of course, they're definitely not going to admit anything. Says here, so they did an audit, the report we're referencing was 2017. So apparently in 2018, there was an audit, found like the Department of Defense failed to account for billions in assets and liabilities, but did not qualify a figure as large as 21 trillion. The 2024 audit, most recent available, noted ongoing issues with tracking 4.3 trillion in assets, but again, no evidence of unauthorized spending on the scale Skidmore claimed. Well, 4.3 trillion is still a hell of a lot of money. You can build a lot of really nice, or a lot of really beautiful, everybody says so, everybody agrees, a lot of beautiful bunkers for $4.3 trillion. So, and I don't know, like, they just obviously are doing it, right? Why wouldn't they? They'd be crazy. It would be irresponsible not to. The DoD has yet to receive a clean audit opinion highlighting persistent accounting challenges. Let's see. Skidmore's continued work. Skidmore and Fitz have maintained their claims through platforms like the Solari Report, which hosts a missing money website. A 2025 Solari Report interview reiterated the 21 trillion figure, but provided no new empirical evidence beyond the original 2017 findings. So maybe it wasn't at 21 trillion. So then I guess it's a conspiracy theory, except there's actually 4.3 trillion that they don't know what the hell happened to. So again, you could build a lot of beautiful, beautiful, beautiful underground cities for 4.3 trillion. That's a lot. So here's my take on it. And do we have anything else that I wanted to see? Okay, we already saw that. All right, that's the last one. So my final take on these is that I would expect governments to be building lots of bunkers. We know some are just common knowledge, but you'd expect there'd be way more than just the few that we know about, right? And they'd be big. And if you've got the resources, they would just do this. And we know that the world is a dangerous place and the universe is a dangerous place. The world is a dangerous place. The solar system's a dangerous place. The galaxy's a dangerous place. It's just a dangerous place all around. So you'd expect there'd be lots of them. You'd also expect that they'd want to keep it secret. And that's why when I see this stuff about they built them to hold trafficked children, that doesn't make any sense. That is just a crazy conspiracy theory, but nobody's actually going to think that. That to me just feels like a psyop to get people to not talk about this so they don't sound like they're crazy, even though what they're saying isn't crazy. It's just that there are powerful forces trying to present any discussion of this as you being crazy because they don't want people talking about it in case the worst actually does happen. And they don't want you showing up knocking on their front door of their bunker. So that's my thoughts. And that was a nice departure from politics for a little bit. Although it is kind of politics, isn't it? Really. All right, let's get to the chat. What are you guys talking about? I mean, there's tunnels everywhere. There's tunnels under cities. There's tunnels under France. I mean, it just. But in terms of like, city-sized bunkers or town-sized bunkers, that's what we're talking about. Well, we're 47 minutes in already. Wow. Let's see. As he says, yeah, can't have people speaking freely, not like we live in a free country or anything. Exactly. Exactly. I can't wait to find out how much worse the censorship bills are going to be from Carney than they were from Trudeau, who was already insanely dystopian with his censorship. Let's see. Izzy says, oh, so that's where the missing children are. I don't think they are. I think a lot of the conspiracy theories that they debunk on TV aren't real. They're just psyops to stop you from talking about whatever it is they don't want you to talk about. Rosie says, tunnels under Getty Museum are real. Are they saying tunnels are connected to? Well, I don't know. There's tunnels like under under lots of places. I mean, there's subway tunnels in most cities, right? But that's not what we're talking about. Rosie says, tunnels all under Disney World, Florida are for workers, have been used to steal kids. Never heard of them being connected to other property. Yeah, so and I've heard about that as well. There's like some really dark stuff has happened at the Disney World. But we're talking about government bunkers created for apocalypse, not, not underground parking, right? Let's see. Rosie says German war criminals escaped through Spain in tunnels to the coast to leave South America. I've never read about that. Let's see. I'll have to look into that. JJ Nevada, how you doing? Says I'm late, but YouTube still sucks. Well, unfortunately, the people on there are good people. We love the Radio Baloney people on YouTube. They're the best, the most beautiful people. Everybody agrees, but unfortunately, YouTube itself is a little censorious. Let's see. A bunch of thumbs up from Yves Samard. Well, thank you. All right. Let's see. Rosie says, if the magnetic field weakens, we might just be propelled to Mars. Maybe not need Elon. Well, hopefully he'll build the city then before, although we might die on the way. Probably die on the way, I guess. Or just immediately as soon as we hit space, I guess. Let's see. Nevada says, I will just divert water over to their Aryan tanks. Well, you can use that as leverage. So let me in. Let's see. Rosie says, I think a near extinction event could occur personally if one insulted the newest muse. She looks quite capable of causing extinction of an offender. What are we talking about here, Rosie? What are we talking about there? I'm not sure I understand that one. I'll have to think harder. Nevada says, I couldn't believe Catherine Austin Fitz came out and said this. I've listened to her for decades, and she is very intelligent and practical. It's the first I've ever heard of her, but that's interesting. And she's pretty serious about it. She hasn't changed her mind on this in the intervening years. Rosie says, secret space program underground. That sounds tricky. True. Although they could have a silo, I guess. Maybe they have a silo. I don't know. Nevada says she is the last person I would expect to be talking about this. Oh, Rosie says she is credible. I believe her. Definitely surprising. Well, the thing is that none of that would be surprising. The idea that they've allocated secret money and to build a bunch of secret bunkers and they don't tell anybody about it. None of that is really far-fetched or surprising in any way. Like it actually just makes total sense. What's Rosie says, Richie, I hope you are not heard in Texas after September 1st. Must you go back and add disclaimers to all videos when TXHB 366 is in effect? What's that? I don't know what that is. We're gonna have to check it out. Hold on. I might have to do that when Carney passes his censorship bill, which I'm certain that he's going to. TXHB 366 bill. Okay. So what's this? Relating to required disclosures on certain political advertising that contains altered media, creating a criminal offense. Well, I don't do political advertising, so this shouldn't affect me in any way. Okay, so AI on the rise. Texas House bill passes bill requiring more transparency in political ads. The bill faced fierce opposition from hardline conservatives who say it's policing speech and could allow the state to jail people over silly political means. So, would you have to be a hardline conservative to be opposed to that? Sounds like like a liberal, like an old school liberal would be opposed to this. Requiring political advertisements to include disclosure. Well, I don't do political advertisements, so this should be fine for me, although it's still concerning, and I'm surprised that this would be in Texas, I have to say. Let's go to sandwich making. Let's re-up that. Oh, God damn it. Hold on a sec. Where's cooking shows? Cooking shows. All right. Hold on. I have so many bookmarks on so many topics now that we've covered on here. I'm going to have to start going through and weeding some of them out. It's because it actually just gets hard to find what I want now because there's too many. You can't search it. Let's see. Hold on. All right. Come on. Did it just disappear? Did that tab just disappear from me? There we go. All right. How about this one? Everybody has to know how to make drinks. All right. I'm going to skip to the end here and see if the newest muse with her danger. Okay, I know you're talking about now the danger baton. I'm afraid of her, but I'm impressed also. Nevada says, we know the military has a lot of stuff underground. Yeah, of course they do. It's just when I see like what seems to me like obvious psyops, like about like just ridiculous conspiracy theories attached to it, I think artificially, that tells me that they don't want you talking about this at all. It does make sense, but then it makes me think, like, are they really expecting something? Like, do they know something's coming? or they know there's like a 95% chance of something happening. Something, an extinction level event, something where, you like your neighbor, but you haven't eaten for a week. So I don't know. The picture looks like a prison. I imagine it would be a pretty kind of miserable life stuck down in one. If you have to like spend a decade in one of those, it might be kind of a miserable life. Let's see. Nevada says a lot of underground shit in Denver. Yeah, it's not surprising. Nevada says I wouldn't want to live anywhere with those elites. Well, I think if you were, if they offered you the magic, the golden ticket to get in, and it's like either that or cannibals, you might say, I guess I'll get used to them. Let's see. She is very shiny, Rosie says. She is shiny. Very shiny. She does a great job of being shiny. Let's see. Headlights is back, Nevada says. All right. Let me have some rant juice. Nevada says, imagine living with thousands of thirsted howls. I could get used to it. It's better than cannibals. All right. So I am going to get rid of some of these tabs because we don't need them. We got too many. So some of these ones we already looked at. We spent an hour talking about the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases. And yeah, they're just obviously they're making them. I mean, they'd be crazy not to. All right, let's get rid of all of these. And so what do we got now? Should we talk a little bit about Alberta independence? Will Alberta become its own separate country, or then maybe join the United States, or become a protectorate of the United States or something, become like a Puerto Rico or something? Well, one thing you have to understand about Alberta is that it's a conservative province, and it voted overwhelmingly for the Conservatives. But they did have an NDP provincial government, about 6 years ago for one term. I think the only time they ever won there. But they did. And like everywhere else, the cities are left-wing. So maybe not as left. Well, Edmonton's very left-wing. Calgary maybe not as left-wing as Edmonton. But like you can bet the city councils in both of these cities are totally full-on batshit crazy far-left lunatics. Calgary Edmonton mayors call potential separatism referendum dangerous. Well, they're lefties because that's just cities now. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith blasts Ottawa, claiming Alberta has sent over $1 trillion in mineral wealth to the federal government and gotten almost nothing back. Well, Alberta gives the federal government, I think, $27 billion a year in transfer payments that it then distributes to entirely Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes. And they get nothing back for that. Even Fox News is now talking about this. So let's take a look. And this was posted by Shuzzy.
People here in the States don't really know about. There is a move by a couple of provinces, primarily Alberta in the West, which has a lot of oil. It's a very rich province. Right. The premier has suggested that they're not getting anything from the federal government. They're giving billions. At one point, the premier is a woman. She said, Premier Smith said that they've given $1 trillion worth of mineral wealth to Ottawa, to the central government, and have received practically nothing in return. 33% of Albertans want to secede from Canada.
Yep.
And remember that Quebec tried to do that a
Yes.
couple of decades ago. It actually went to the Canadian Supreme Court in 1998, and they outlined a process by which you can secede. It's the only Commonwealth nation that allows a nonviolent process for secession. So I think Donald Trump and this 51st state thing is playing into that,
Yes.
what's going on in Canada. It
They need
seems
to chip
totally
off
out
a
of the
piece at a
ballpark.
time
Yeah.
and do business with the very oil-rich section of Canada.
Exactly.
And I think that he basically is saying, look, I've seen people who appeared incalcitrant, and I've done deals with them in the past. So he's clearly still chipping away at
Yes,
that.
he
This
is.
is Scott Bessent talking about when we're going to hear these trade deals, because the president sort of hinted.
Okay, so I've talked many times about how Trump has basically laid out the red carpet for any company around the world to move to the United States. He says he's going to welcome them with loving arms, and they're going to get preferential treatment, and they're going to have low taxes, and no red tape, and he's just going to make a really great environment for them to operate and to make money. And what we've seen, I mean, last time I checked, it was like $1 trillion worth of new investment to try and repopulate that hollowed out industrial plant in the United States. Obviously, Canada's right here, and it's a pretty easy It's a pretty easy move. So, does he want Canadian steel? Probably. I mean, he knows that Mark Carney has promised to make the polluters pay. And by polluters, he means business industry. He's going to make them pay. He's very publicly said he's going to make them pay. And I think it's fairly obvious that if they're faced with onerous carbon taxes, which Carney is promising, and as well as new net zero regulations, which is all going to cost a fortune to deal with, it's very likely they'll just go south. And I think that's why Trump likes Carney. But then as an added bonus, on top of that, you have the rising separatist movement in Alberta. You've got, in the 30s, 30-something percent. It's going up, actually. I think the last we saw it was 36%. I've got a poll coming up. But when you're in the 30s in sentiment wanting to leave Canada, and there's no leader and there's no organized movement, well, you don't have that much further to go. I mean, a charismatic leader and an actual organization behind it spending money, you can get to 50% pretty quickly. CBC watcher. So Erica Barutes on CBC last evening. What is she saying? This could happen. So Alberta leaving, seceding from Canada. This could happen. It wouldn't be easy, but it could happen.
So 2026 comes. She's already said that there will be a question put to citizens, voters in Alberta. That will be based on the Alberta panel. I think that's what she's calling it. And they're going to do some consultations, decide what needs to be put to voters in terms of a referendum question. And then there's also the possibility of this citizen-led question on separation. You're in Alberta. Yes, you have the pulse of the province. What are your thoughts? Do you think we're going to see that question on the ballot on separation?
Yeah, I think the earliest that we could see it and where we would see it for those that don't live here is the citizen-led initiative, as you were talking about Bill 54 that was introduced. The earliest we'd see is municipal election, which we have here in October. So if individuals, are organized and there is a will, I do not think that the premier would get in the way of that democratic right that there's a policy in place for that fulsome discussion to occur. So we might see that. And you know what? I open and welcome that conversation because I would really love to know where Albertans sit on all of this. I've never had more conversations about what does this look like for us. I'm from Saskatchewan. People being like, do I need to move to Alberta? Conversations like that I never thought would be real. And they really started after last Monday's results. So I think that we might see it. I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't see a citizen-led referendum come forward in the fall. And I think for 2026, I was the president of the United Conservative Party when the first Fair Deal panel went through. I I wouldn't be surprised. They highlighted a lot of the demands in which Premier Smith is still asking for. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe one or two of those were coming forward.
So if Alberta leaves, I would expect actually that that Saskatchewan would have a push to leave as well, because it's culturally similar, economically similar. It would actually make a lot of sense. Here is the Premier Scott Moe of Saskatchewan, which it's right next door to Alberta. Let's hear what he has to say.
Saskatchewan, with a significant number of people that did not support the Liberal Party of Canada, that the Prime Minister would be reaching out and attempting to work with the province. That's our focus. That's our goal, is to work alongside him and to offer him some opportunities.
Saskatchewan does have referendum legislation already in place that allows citizens to present petitions, and the Premier says that his government would honor it should it ever happen. Catherine Ludwig, Global.
So, the plot thickens. Now, here is Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta. And I think she's really great, actually. I think she's an excellent leader. But she's very critical. She's been very critical of the Liberals, obviously Justin Trudeau and now Mark Carney. She is very strong for Alberta. She is concerned about Alberta. And I guess if you want to say she's Trumpian anyway, I mean, she's Trumpian in that way, is that she cares about the people that she represents, even though it's a province and not a country.
The costs of an unreliable power grid are even more grim. If Ottawa had its way, Albertans would be left to freeze in the dark. In the depths of a minus 40-degree winter cold snap, families would be bundled up in their winter coats while sitting down for dinner, a dinner lit by flashlight or candle as they wait for the rolling blackouts to move on to the next community. There would be no street lights working to light up your way home through the blinding blizzard as you squint to see the dimly lit brake lights of the car ahead of you. In the heat of summer, you would be left worrying if the groceries left in your fridge and freezer will spoil before the blackouts end. And hospitals would be overwhelmed by the influx of patients suffering from heat stroke while trusting that their generators keep the lights on for their life-saving equipment. The cost of an unreliable.
So not a fan of Carney's net zero stuff. And as we've seen, that net zero grid in Spain, Spain, Portugal, and there was another country in Europe as well, that they just fried for like 3 days. Yeah, it's definitely not great when that happens in places where it gets to like minus 35, like every winter. So, yeah, she's not on board with Mark Carney's net zero stuff. Let's just say that. Hold on. Let me just, because I thought I had something else. Okay, we'll get to this in a second. Okay, so let's hear Danielle Smith again here.
Well, maybe the best way to describe it is for people to examine how scared and fearful they are that Donald Trump will crush their economy. That's how scared and fearful Albertans are that the Liberals will continue to crush our economy. How? All of the damage that we have seen over the last 10 years, most of it has come from bad federal policy coming out of the alliance between the Liberals and the NDs to target our industry and to put in punitive policies that are designed to keep our oil and gas in the ground. Maybe that's the best way to understand the feelings Albertans have right now. No, I'm feeling very hopeful. I think I've said before that I don't know if we've got conservative banker Mark Carney, who is our prime minister, or whether we've got a net zero advisory council to Justin Trudeau. Mark Carney is our prime minister, but I want to see which one that is. And I do think that if we can find a pragmatic path forward, then it's going to work for Canada and it's going to work for Alberta.
So Danielle Smith says that she wants an independent Alberta within Canada, and she's not an advocate for separation. But she is an advocate for democracy. We keep hearing about this word democracy, right? They keep telling us that they have to do things for democracy. They have to censor us for democracy because you're for democracy, right? But she's for, the democratic rights of Albertans to make up their own mind. And I got a clip of her talking somewhere. Where did it go? Hold on. Okay, so Premier Smith unveils major updates to the Citizen Initiative Act. Only 177,000 signatures are needed to trigger a referendum on Alberta independence, down from 600,000. So she's made it easier. She's made it easier to at least, for this Citizen Initiative Act for the public to vote for independence. And the signature collection period extended from 90 to 120 days. Let's see. Here you have Daniel Smith warns Mark Carney that the status quo can't hold. Hold on a sec. So from April 29th, it says Alberta has reportedly surpassed the required 177,000 signatures to trigger a referendum process. All of this in just one day. If this happens, Canada is finished. Well, Canada would be greatly weakened. There's no question about that. Let's see. Hold on a sec. I feel like I'm missing something that I definitely had earlier. Okay. So, supposing Alberta does hold a referendum on secession, would you vote for your province to leave Canada or stay? So, this is a poll. Okay. So, Alberta, 52% definitely would vote to stay. So, that's as of now. Would definitely vote to leave or lean towards voting to leave. So that would be 36%. So it's up to 36% now. It was down 30, I think a few weeks ago or before the election anyway. So it's creeping up. It's not that far away. Not that far away. You see the NDP, they are, they are the Canadian commie super far left loony party. 93% would definitely want to stay. UCP, that's Daniel Smith's party. Only 19% would vote to stay, and 65% would vote to leave of those. This is not pie in the sky stuff for a referendum. Let's see. All right, so let me grab one more thing. Hold on a second. There's one more thing I thought that I had, which I don't have it. Sometimes things just disappear from my bookmarks, it seems like. Hold on. I'm just going to look for something else. Give me 1 second, guys. No matter how much time I put into these things. All right, hold on. So I want to show you this as well. This is from May 5th. Daniel Smith just declared war on Mark Carney, taking him to court over his radical green agenda and net zero initiatives. So, I mean, this is serious stuff. Like, this is a basic, just as basic of a philosophical difference as you can get. She wants to use the resources. Mark Carney wants them to stay in the ground.
And today, we are taking another step to protect Albertans' livelihoods by challenging the constitutionality of the net zero electricity regulations in the Court of Appeal of Alberta, and we look forward to making our case. Alberta will no longer tolerate having our livelihoods threatened, our industries targeted, and our resources landlocked by Ottawa. We will not accept their reckless and dangerous policies that will harm our economy, stifle our energy industry, jeopardize the reliability of our electricity grid, and raise electricity prices for Albertans. Prime Minister Mark Carney must immediately commence working with our government to reset the relationship between Ottawa and Alberta with meaningful action rather than hollow rhetoric. And today,
things could get ugly in Canada. I think Mark Carney's more of an authoritarian than Trudeau is, and Trudeau used the Emergencies Act, essentially martial law, over a peaceful protest with like bouncy castles. So what would Mark Carney do? I don't know, but things could get very ugly. Mark Carney is not going to change his basic philosophy of the world and economics for Danielle Smith or for the good of the Canadian people. That's not going to happen. Is there problems on the stream? Like, see, A. Nickerson says, all this freezing is too irritating. See you next time. Is there a big problem with the stream? Guys, let me know in the chat. Because if there is, I've got a sore throat. So if it's not working properly, I'd rather do like an extra stream tomorrow or something, or Monday or something. Guys, let me know. Is there a problem for everybody out there? Like, is there like Nickerson is saying that it's too irritating with the freezing. So is everybody getting that? Let's see. Nawada says working good for me. Izzy says not noticing it. Rosie says stream is perfect. Okay, well, good. Great. All right. So I want to keep looking because there's one more thing I wanted to show you. Let's see. Where is it? All right. This is what I wanted to show you here. So here she's talking about separation specifically. Let's listen.
To be clear from the outset, our government will not be putting a vote on separation from Canada on the referendum ballot. However, if there is a successful citizen-led referendum petition that is able to gather the requisite number of signatures requesting such a question to be put on a referendum, our government will respect the democratic process and include that question on the 2026 provincial referendum ballot as well.
So there you have it. I mean, she's not advocating for separation, but if the people demand it, there's no reason to think that she won't pursue that, as she should. And I have to say, Canada's, it's looking like a sinking ship. I don't want to be black-pilled about Canada. I'm going to try not to be. I'm going to try to become more optimistic. But after that last election, after 10 years of Trudeau, the Liberal Party, all the same people, they just get a different face, not even a good face. Like, not even, like, it's not like Mark Carney is this dynamic politician, right? Where all this charisma and charm, and he can say, well, I guess people were just swept away by that. No, he's just a gargoyle. And but he was just someone different, and that's all that it took. It wasn't Trump, it wasn't anything. It was when you see, I put out the clip video from the last stream on Wednesday, showing the polling and just how as soon as Justin Trudeau said that he was going to resign, as soon as Justin Trudeau said that he was going to resign, all of a sudden the Liberal vote just shot up. And it wasn't that the Conservatives lost a bunch of support. No, they stayed actually pretty stable. In fact, even and they beat the final polling by a couple of points, 2-3 points. So their high was about 44% support, and they ended up with almost 42%. So it wasn't that Pierre Poilievre blew it or did anything. Like, he didn't lose his support. What happened was that just every lefty in the country went, Trudeau's gone, okay, we're just going to vote against the Conservatives. And 10% or 11% of the NDP just said, well, we'll vote strategically with the Liberals and just to stop the Conservatives from winning. Because Conservatives mean, and TV said, and I don't know, those teleprompters told us that Conservatives are bad and Pierre Poilievre's mean, and Trump something or other. So when you see that, you realize that there wasn't anything really that Pierre Poilievre could have done. I mean, they weren't far off. Carney only, had about 2% more of the vote than the Conservatives, but they have a more efficient vote as well, which gives them an advantage in taking seats. But there wasn't much more that Pierre could have done, because the people that voted for Mark Carney, I don't think we're ever going to vote Conservative. I think Canada is now, just after decades of social conditioning, social engineering, and essentially just a legacy media cartel where there's no counterpoint to it. There's no Fox News in Canada. That Canada has now become New York State or California, San Francisco, and things have to become kind of almost unimaginably bad for those people to do something so distasteful to them and as to vote Conservative. Because after all, TV says they're bad. So I guess my point is that things aren't getting any better in Canada anytime soon. They're going to get worse. So Carney is Trudeau on steroids, and he's a bit more competent. I don't think he's that much more competent, I got to be honest with you. I think he's highly overrated. But he's more competent than Trudeau anyway. And things could get really nasty and dirty. And Carney, considering that he's there's going to be a massive increase in the deficit over the deficit that Trudeau was already planning on, right? And this is all, he needs money to invest. He calls it investing, but it's really just subsidizing unprofitable green companies that he's connected to or that his friends are connected to. And he's going to need to extract as much money out of the country to do this, as well as sending off $100 million to Gaza and $300 million off to Bangladesh. And, you might as well send $80 million over to the terrorist regime in Syria. And don't forget about that gender-neutral maintenance shed in Lebanon. Real thing. So Carney is going to need to, with the massive debt that he's going to be running up, even faster than Trudeau, he's going to need to extract every penny out, while at the same time doing everything that he can to further the net zero scam, which means not helping Alberta make money, because Alberta is a resource province. They have a resource economy. So things can get very, very ugly. And I think you could see very easily over 50% of people within a couple of years of Carney easily just saying, screw it, we're done with this country. We've had a problem for decades. The resentment will build up too much, too high, and that'll just be it. So, ultimately, you can have the referendum, but then you've got courts, you've got challenges, you've got the First Nations people, you've got the Native people in Alberta. There's going to be endless court cases. There's going to be endless legal wrangling. It will take years to happen. Of course, you've got to sort out, so you need your own completely separate. You're not going to have the RCMP anymore, obviously. I mean, healthcare is already run through the provinces, but there's going to have to be basically refitting of everything to just be your own country. So unless they go 51st state, but even then you're going to still have that adjustment period. So let's see. According to Angus Reid, 50% support holding a referendum. 36% in Alberta and 34% in Saskatchewan said they'd vote to leave so far. Just 19 Alberta and 15 Saskatchewan say they definitely vote to leave. So why is the talk of separation growing? This is from Sheila Gunn-Reid from Rebel News. Because Ottawa won't listen. Mark Carney's Liberals keep punishing the West with pipeline blockades, emissions caps, Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines law, but it's also like No More Mines or just anything law. Meanwhile, they shovel billions into Quebec and call it unity. Here's what would stop the separatist surge per the poll. Build an east-west pipeline, repeal Bill C-69, drop the emissions cap, do those, and the leave camp crumbles. This isn't ideology, it's survival. The West was not begging for independence. We were begging Ottawa to stop treating us like second-class citizens in a country we helped build, but instead they doubled down. So there is a lot of Canada's a very big country. Culturally, Alberta, Saskatchewan are different certainly from that, the East Coast Laurentian elites. But they're different. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that, as a block, like Ontario just looks down on Alberta. No, of course not. But underneath, there is that, certainly the elites look down upon Alberta, Saskatchewan, the prairie provinces as kind of rubes, right? And actually, because they have this kind of utterly ridiculous disdain and inferiority complex with the United States. They tend to be like, oh, well, they're like Texas or something, as if that was an insult. I mean, that's a real thing from the Canadian elites, right? They love to turn their nose down at the United States, at Americans. It comes from an inferiority complex, obviously, but they kind of turn that onto Alberta as well. And there's a level of disdain for Albertans, as if they're as if they're second-class citizens, rubes, primitives of some kind. They're gods and they're God and their guns, that sort of thing. A very kind of Obama attitude towards them, I guess. An Obama attitude towards, like, Texas, I guess. Anyway, my point is, things can get very ugly between Alberta, but also Saskatchewan and Ottawa. I absolutely think that it could have, 50% support, enough support to pass a referendum for independence could happen really quick. Especially, I expect Carney's policies to really be hitting hard, probably even just in a year from now. And I don't expect the attitudes of the elites towards Alberta to change at all. I think it could get ugly. It would take a while, probably take years to happen. But am I saying it's inevitable? No. But could it happen? Yes. I'm talking about Alberta independence and probably Saskatchewan too. They probably both go together. All right. So now we can leave that. That's dangerous. Too dangerous. Not worth it. Crack you over the head with that thing. That'd hurt. That'll leave a big bump on your head. You don't want to do that. All right. Why don't we do one of these? Hold on. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. Only 1,000 units. Only 1,000. That's exclusive, my friends. You're getting the bold, dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check. I'm not sure I get that one. CNN fact check, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus. No crash, no communism. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. Damn straight. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions. I hope she's not one of those dirty, filthy commies. And a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. From a woke sea witch. That got heavy. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. What? I think this might be the best ad ever. $170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for only $99. That's a hell of a deal. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com. That's 1775coffee.com/studio. You're going to need that code studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bowl beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. That's the most important thing. And don't be a dirty, filthy commie. Izzy says, my night is now complete. Of course it is. Izzy says, where's the commie hate? It was in there. Just not as much as normal, but it was there. JDL says, I think I heard gunshots going off. Uh-oh. Well, I hope you're okay. Let us know that you're okay in the chat, JDL. Izzy says, I'd vote for the same power Quebec has in our federation. Quebec is just gimme, gimme, gimme. That's it. Gimme, gimme. Spambot says, just wait for Cartage's version of the online harms. Nasty. I expect everything to be worse with Carney. So Trudeau's online harms bill was the most draconian law, I think, in the world that's ever existed in a liberal democracy. It would make us not that anymore, actually. And I expect Carney to be worse, to be honest. Even more insane. Nevada says, I doubt Commie Carney to last through 2026. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm going to try and be more optimistic. I'm going to try. But just looking at the results, of that election, you just realize that if all the lefties, like if the NDP is just no longer really needed, and why is it needed, really? Like if you like sex changes for kids, right? Well, Mark Carney's your man. If you're obsessed with the environment and climate change, Mark Carney's your man, more than anybody, even than Trudeau. If you want censorship, if you want the government to put the censorship boot on your own face, which is what it is. These retarded lefties think that they're censoring other people. They don't realize they're censoring themselves. They're removing their own ability to choose what they say or to they're giving up, dominion over their own conscience. But a lot of them want that. And if you like that, Carney's your man. I mean, just name the crazy shit. He says he wants to make sure he's going to preserve woke in Canada. He's going to preserve inclusiveness. And what does inclusiveness mean? It means a lot of things that aren't actually very inclusive. If you like all of that, if you like woke lunacy, Mark Carney's your man. So if that's just where we are now, if we've become a two-party state, we're kind of screwed. And something really catastrophic would have to come before people change their minds. I mean, would it have to be like 200% inflation, like what happened in Argentina? Maybe. Nevada says Alberta could be a U.S. territory. That's an option people don't talk about, but I've thought of that myself, actually. Let's see. JDL says Canadian boomer TDS. Only Blanchette gets a pass. Every Quebec premier since the 1970s refuses to honor the king or queen. Yep. They're just there. Yeah. I don't know. Why? At some point, I mean, the other provinces have to wonder, like, why do we just keep paying for these guys who hate us so much? I know it's not all Quebecers, right? The Bloc only got, was it 22% in Quebec in this last election? So, I don't want to overstate that, but anyway, you know what I mean. Nevada says, I hear her saying that the people can decide. Yeah, I thought we liked democracy. JDL says the West is screwed. Spambot says every premier takes an oath to honor the head of state, King Charles. Well, yeah, except for the Frenchies. Spambot says she cannot promote separation. None of the premiers can, except for Blanchette, who does that all the time. Let's see. All right. So I don't know what the hell's been going on. This year has been terrible. I finally took antibiotics and got over I think I had like walking pneumonia for like 2 months or something. So over this last week, while I was away, I started getting like the worst allergies I've had in like 10 years. And it's continued. And now my throat is really sore. And I guess that's from allergies or something, but it actually hurts to talk right now. So I think we're going to have to call this one a bit short tonight. And then let me think. Tomorrow, what's going on tomorrow? Maybe we'll just do the rest of it tomorrow night if you guys want. If you guys are around, maybe finish it tomorrow. Because my throat is now killing me. So, and I don't think I can keep talking. It hurts every time I talk. JDL saying the app is on the phone app. It's still down. So, yeah, I'm sorry to do it to you guys, but I don't know. This year has just not been a good year for me. I've had just endless problems. And the thing is, I used to have really bad allergies. And then I went to live in Alberta for a while and it just kind of went away. Actually, I did this diet, this Candida diet, and it actually I used to have miserable allergies like months and months of the year. And I did this thing to get my gut bacteria good. It actually got much better. And then I moved to Alberta for a while and just no problems. And since I've moved back to where I am now, I had a little bit, but then this year, now it's just been like this last week has been awful. Nevada says allergies can be rough. The older you get, the harder the hit. I haven't had it like this in like 10 years. It's been miserable. Spambot says tomorrow's good. Wait until Sunday. Maybe we'll wait. We'll leave it till Sunday then. Maybe tomorrow I'll do a premium only or something if I have the energy, if my throat's not hurting. But hopefully, yeah, we've got the denial of service attack happening as well. This is just not a good night, is it? But that said, and I think there's a problem with the YouTube feed as well happening right now. But the good thing is that we did get to talk about the deep underground military bases, which we've been wanting to get to for a little bit. And we're going to do more of that. I want to do, what do you call them? The things in the sky, yeah, my brain is super working right now. Those, the vapor clouds in the sky. What do you call those? You know what I'm talking about. I want to take a look into that and see if there's anything to that. I want to talk about Bill Gates wants to block out the sun, apparently, which is a very Mr. Burns thing to want to do and seems totally insane. Yeah, lots of different stuff as with mixed in with the chemtrails. There we go, chemtrails. So all that's more stuff that I want to get into, and with a little bit less influence on the or a little bit less emphasis on the politics. Although it'll always be primarily a politics channel, but there's other interesting things to talk about too. So, all right, everybody, I will see you. Man, my throat is killing me. Holy crap. I'll see you guys on Sunday night. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, chat. You guys are awesome, and we'll see y'all soon.